Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Biblio Fitness. Hope everyone's had a great day, made some tremendous gains. Today, I did want to discuss the section immediately following the previous episode, which is 449, titled "Where Are the Poor in Spirit?" It's a little longer than usual, but I think it's very interesting, very profound one, I guess you could say. So before, let's go ahead and. So yeah, it's titled "Where Are the Poor in Spirit?" Quote, "Oh, how greatly it goes against my grain to impose my own thoughts upon others. How I rejoice over every mood and secret change within me, as a result of which the thoughts of others are victorious over my own. But from time to time, I enjoy an even greater satisfaction when I am allowed to give away my intellectual possessions, like the confessor sitting in his box and anxiously awaiting the arrival of some distressed person who stands in need of consolation, and will only be too glad to relate the full misery of his thoughts, so that the listener's hand and heart will once again be filled and the troubled soul eased. Not only has the confessor no desire for renown, he would fain shun gratitude as well, for it is obtrusive, and does not stand in awe of solitude or silence. But to live without a name, and even to be slightly sneered at, too obscure to arouse envy or enmity, with a head free from fever, a handful of knowledge, and a pocketful of experience, a physician, as it were, of the poor in spirit, helping this one or that one, whose head is troubled with opinions, without the latter perceiving who has actually helped them, without any desire to appear to be in the right in the presence of his patient, or to carry off a victory, to speak to him in such a way that, after a short and almost imperceptible hint or objection, the listener may find out for himself what is right and proudly walk away. To be like an obscure and unknown inn, which turns no one away who is in need, but which is afterwards forgotten and laughed at. To be without any advantage over others, neither possessing better food nor pure air, nor a more cheerful mind, but always to be given away, returning, communicating, and becoming poorer. To know how to be humble in order to be accessible to many people and humiliating to none. To take a great deal of injustice on his shoulders and creep through the cracks and crannies of all kinds of errors, in order that we may reach many obscure souls on their secret paths. Ever in possession of some kind of love, of some kind of egoism and self-enjoyment, in possession of power, and yet at the same time hidden and resigned, constantly basking in the sunshine and sweetness of grace, and yet knowing that quite near to us stands the ladder leading to the sublime. That would be life. That would indeed be a reason for a long life." End quote. I really like this one. I guess this is like the conclusion of what Nietzsche calls the vita contemplativa, or the contemplative life. And I feel like the way that he describes here is a very interesting way of looking at power, and with power no longer shackled by the relations we have with other people and their opinions, right? When we perform a good deed upon another person subconsciously, a lot of other times we perform these good deeds expecting some sort of reciprocity in return, right? Whether or not even reciprocity, us being able to gain influence over this individual who changes this person's life, there's always an interaction, there's always a sale, an attachment made to these actions. But to be, like he says, like a confessor just anxiously waiting on who else he can help, without need of renown, without need of fame, without need of wealth, without need of exaltations from another individual, which are nothing more than just attachments to the world and to things that are outside of your control. And I feel like this really reminds me a lot of something like Stoicism, and its definition of what power is, which is power over oneself. And I just love how both of these tie so well together, because when you're in possession of yourself and when you are powerful over yourself, you don't need these concepts and these banners to make you feel justified in your sense of power, right? Or in your confidence of power. To be willing to help without without other people needing to know it was you that helped. Having so much power and knowledge and being so happy with it that you want to give it away. You have this knowledge and experience and you just want to help. You just want to help those who come along without needing for them to thank you, without needing for any of that, because with that comes that attachment and comes that the ability or the way that you no longer hold yourself accountable to what you can do, but now you're going to start taking in on the opinions of others as to your level of competence. And I really like this one, man. Not being selfish and just not falling to the whims of fame and fortune, like especially now, that we have to be rich in order to do all these things. It's a very interesting way of looking at it. Life that is truly worth living is one that is basically an obscurity, just like stoicism. Not doing things for the fame, not needing your power to be relying upon what other people think of you or how other people express about you or what other people's influence or what your influence has over others. This is a very pure, I guess you could say as pure as you could get, way of being your own arbiter of these said things. It's a very difficult way of doing it, obviously, because especially now, we're very social creatures, and every single facet of our lives and the way that we think it's a good way of living life is of us having to have influence over others and them being aware of it, them knowing that you have an influence over them. This tyrannical hold that everyone has over everyone else, this carrot or this stick hanging over everyone's head, and being able to separate yourself from looking at the world that way, because when you stop looking at the world that way, your intentions become more pure, because you're not looking at it through these trifling means, these means that are beyond your control, these avenues that you have no idea where they're going to go, and you have no idea who's going to be in the way or what's going to happen, because it's not within you anymore. Now your power is now being reliant upon the whims of others, and that's not true power. You have now relinquished power to the whims of another. This reminds me a lot of something like stoicism, not needing fame and power and wealth and status to feel good about helping. Just a pocket full of experience and knowledge, and you'll be able to help the poor in spirit, those who are probably even more defensive as to who is helping them, right? They don't want, they escape religion to a religious, for example, to no longer be put in the position of the oppressed, to be put in the position of someone being told what to do. So when you are able to disseminate in such a fashion the information required for them to advance and for them to think that they are the ones who are inspired, that's a great way of looking at it, because you don't want anyone intruding upon your power and influence. Why be hypocritical and do the opposite and do likewise to other people? Let them have that semblance of power and let them begin to think that they're the ones who came up with this conclusion. You just kind of help them truck along. You kept them in place, or whatever the case may be. You shuffled them in the right direction, but they never knew. That is true power. Not being attached to all these things, not being attached to people and constructs that really are beyond your control and therefore should not be within your realm of interest. Not completely, but it's just like Epictetus is like, why worried about those things that you are not in control of? You can't do anything about it, so why attach yourself in that way? Why place yourself in a very compromised situation by allowing power or your perspective of power to be relying upon all these chains? And I feel a lot of people don't realize that, because we're told all the time that we have to be rich and wealthy and influential, and we have to garner this sort of influence, and all these wannabe influencers and shit now. Everyone wants to be famous without putting in the work, for example. But to extirpate yourself from all those desires is being able to really develop a true relation of power and true relation of confidence within yourself as to what you're capable of, what you can or cannot do, and what you want to do. Not being hampered or directed by the constructs and the ideologies around you, but by your own desires. So it's a good turning away. It's a breaking from common trajectory of how we look at all this, right? So I really do like these sort of things. These are very interesting, very divergent sometimes from what a lot of people really are saying, right? That you have to have all this money and fame, and you're doing nothing, and they are nothing more, if anything, than shackles. More shackles placed upon you. They self-impose shackles, self-imposed weights, unnecessarily being placed upon you're unnecessarily placing them upon yourself. So, very interesting way of getting away from all that, and if anything, causing even better peace of mind, really, knowing that it's all a matter of your perspective, not anybody else's. So, and I just love how these things like stoicism and nature go hand in hand with one another very well. It's amazing, really. But that'll be over today. But it has to work. I just really like these one. The where are the poor in spirit, wanting to help others and stuff. It's pretty good. It's pretty cool. So that'll be all for today. I do hope you have a great day. Make some gorgeous games. Until next time, peace.